Okay, so we will start. Last time what we see is we see Horner's algorithm, and then we use that Horner's algorithm to convert numbers from one base to another base. So at the beginning, we try to convert uh, the integers from base B to base 10 and base 10 to base B. And then we see how we can do it for fraction, and we see that we can transform a fraction B to base fraction into a base 10 fraction by using a version of a Horner's algorithm, right? So we will now see how we can use this Horner's algorithm to convert a base 10 fraction into a base B fraction, right? So the last part is okay. So we are going to see how we can do this transformation from base 10 to or base B to base 10 to base B in fraction, right? Suppose right, so let's say f be the base 10 fraction, right? So it will be a fraction, so 2 upon 5, 5 upon 10, something like that, right? So you know that. So what we do is we set, right? So we set kn is equal to f, right? Sorry, ki minus 1. Okay, so what you do is you take f and set that as kn, right? And then what you do is you multiply that by base b, right? So when you do that, you will get a integer part and the real part, right? So when you do that, when you multiply a number by a base b, you will get an integer part and a real part, right? So you separate them and rename them. So fractional part, you name that as ki minus 1, right? And integer parts, you name them as an minus I. Right? So when you do that, you will get a sequence, right? right? So when you multiply that, you get this to be the base b multiplication representation of f, right? So that is right. So this is what you are going to have, right? Say for example, right, so if you have 0.525, right, so this is ki, and let's say your b is 2, then ki times b, when you multiply ki with b, you get, when you multiply this, you get 1.050, right? So this is what you have when you multiply ki with b, for this ki and b, right? So for this numbers, when you multiply, you get this times 2 is 1.050. So here you know that integer part is 1. So you name that as an minus I, right? And then fractional part, (0.05), right? So fractional part is 0.05. You set that as ki minus 1, right? And then you continue. Then you multiply this by 2, integer part, fractional part. So when you continue multiplying like that, and you can always get an integer part and real part. So eventually you can get all the integer parts done and continue this, right? So this is an example of what you do, right? So you are continuing this, right? So when do you want to stop, right? So there is a problem in this case, right? So okay, so we stop this algorithm. Right, so when you don't have a fractional part, right, so whenever you ended up with a fractional part 0, so when you multiply this by 2, you will get a fractional part. When you multiply that by 2, you will get a fractional part. So you keep on multiplying by base again, and at some point you will see that you don't have any more fractional part, right? So in that case you can stop. But there are some fractions where you will never get 0, right? Say for example 2 upon 3, right? So if you look at the fraction 2 upon 3, right? So you multiply this by 2, you get 1 and 1 upon 3, right? So this fractional part, you multiply by 2, you get 2 upon 3 again, right? So this fractional part, you get again 1 upon 3. This fractional part again 2 upon 3. Right? So in this case, when you multiply this fraction by 2, you will never get to 0. Right? But you can see you have a repetition of digits. Right? So you have 2 upon 3 start with, and then 1 upon 3, again go back to 2 upon 3, again go back to 1 upon 3, again go back to 2 upon 3. So you can see that 1 upon 3 and 2 upon 3 is repeating again and again and again. Right? When you see such kind of cases also, you can say you will stop, right? Because same digits are going to return again and again and again without any stopping, right? So without getting to 0. Or right, so when same digits are repeating in the fractional part also, you can stop, right? So this is how you do the transformation from one base 10 fraction into base b fraction, right? So let us do an example. Right, so this is a number 0.3125 is a base 10 fraction, right? We want to convert it into base 2, right? So I can use the Horner's algorithm. So I will set ki, right? So that is 3125. So at that time I will have to use an minus I, right? So I will have to use an minus I. So this you don't have anything, right? Because so I is basically you will start from n minus 1 and you go all the way, right? So a naught, you don't have a naught here because you know it is always 0, right? So you can avoid having anything, or you can put a 0 for a naught, right? So this is always a naught. So you don't need to worry about a naught. You can always set that to be 0. So now what you do is you multiply this by 2. Right? So when you multiply this by 2, you will get an integer part and a fractional part. Right? So this, when you multiply this by 2, you will get 0.625. There is no integer part. So you can put 0. Right? So now when you multiply this by 2, right, this is 1.25. Right? So when you multiply this by 2, you get 1.25. So that means integer part comes here, fractional part goes there. Again, you multiply this by 2, so you get 0.5, so the integer part is 0. You multiply this by 2, you get 1.0. So 1 is the integer part, fractional part is 0. So when you see a fractional part, you can stop, right? So you will stop the procedure or algorithm when you see 0 in the fractional part. So you stop here. So this is your A naught, A1, A2, A3, A4. That will be your fraction, right? So you know that 0.3125 is basically 0.0101 base 2. Right? So this is how you do the repeating, or this is how you see the transformation. Right? So I will give you a repeating digit example as well. Right, so instead of keeping that in decimals, right, 0.51225, you can keep that as a fraction as well, right? So that is also fine. You can keep the fraction like that as well. But the procedure is same, right? So always you start with this, right? So you set ki is 2 upon 3 and an minus I The first term is always 0. So you don't need to worry about that. Right? So then you multiply by 2. So that is 4/3. So I show you already. This is 1 plus 1 upon 3. Right? So when you multiply 2/3 by 2, you get 4/3. That is 1 integer and 1 upon 3 is the fraction part. So you multiply by 2 again. Right? So you get 2/3. So integer part is 0. You multiply that by 2 again. So you know that your integer part is 1. Fractional part is 1/3. And again 0, 2/3. So you can see that this pattern is repeating. Right? So you can stop here and say that this is 0.1010, right? And I put a dash in here, right? So this means 101010 is repeating, right? Right? So 101010 is repeating. Because you know that this, if you write this as a fraction, you will get 0.666666. Like that, it will continue, right? So that is actually 0.66 bar, right? So it is 666 is continuing. So if I want to write like that, I can say 0.1010 and dot 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 dot. So you know that 1010 is repeating. Right, so this is the difference here. You have to be careful when you are converting a base 10 fraction into base 2 fraction, right? Because in base 10, you may have some fractions which have repeating digits, right? Like the example 2/3. 1/3 is another example, right? So 1/3 has 0.33333, right? So that is another example. So there are fractions like that which will repeat again and again, which will have digits that will be repeating again and again and again. So you need to be careful in transforming from base 10 into a base B fraction, right? So this is the last kind of transformation we need to study here on base transformation, right? So we have studied the Horner's algorithm first, and then what we do is we use Horner's algorithm to transform numbers from one base to another base. So when we talk about numbers, we say that we have integers and fractions. So that is why we have 4 subcategories: base 10 integer to base B integer to base 10, base B fraction to base 10, and base 10 fraction to base B. Right? So we have seen all 4 patterns here. Right. So now you can see that you usually know that the computers usually handle binary digits, right? So if you give a real number, right, something like a 2/3, then what computer is going to read is 2/3 as 10101010 like that. Or if you type this as 0.13125, computer will read this as 0.1010 or 0.0101. Right? So that is a type of computer might read base 2, another type might read base 4. So machines are using numbers in different patterns. And based on the capacity of the machine, right, the length of the text or character which you are inputting into the computer may differ. Right? So next section, what we are going to do is we are going to learn how numbers are represented in computers and what are the arithmetics which have been carried out based on those number representation. Right? So that is our next section. Right, so we are going to see the representation of numbers. Right. Okay, so there are two types of number representation. One is fixed point number representation, another one is floating point number representation. So we are going to see these two different types and how these are represented, how the arithmetic is being done by using these number representation. Right. So we will start with the fixed point numbers. Right. 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 So whenever we are talking about fixed point numbers, we will be focusing on two things, right? One is a base, right? So we should have a base first, right? It can be base 10, it can be base 2, it can be base 8, it can be base 4, or any other base, right? So for every fixed point number, you should have a certain base. And also in fixed point numbers, what you have is you will be limited with the number of digits in the fractional part, right? Integer part, you don't need to worry, right? You can have any number of digits in the integer part, but fractional part, you can have only a fixed number of digits, right? So we will denote that number by t, right? So this is how we are going to see the set of fixed point integers or fixed point numbers, I'm sorry. right? So because fixed point, right? So we use capital F and capital I, right? For the set of fixed point numbers, we use capital F and capital I. So those are the first two letters of fixed, right? FIXED. So we use F and I together to denote fixed point numbers, set of all fixed point numbers. And when I talk about a set of all fixed point numbers, then I should specify a certain base, as well as I should specify how many digits I can have in the fractional part, right? So that is why every set of fixed point integer numbers will be denoted by fi of b comma t, right? So these two b and t are important in representing a fixed point number, right? So if I say an x belongs to this set, right, then I can write x as plus or minus an minus 1 all the way up to a1 a naught, right, dot, and then I have fractional part, right? So I will write this as a minus 1, a minus 2 all the way up to a minus t in base b, right? So I can have plus or minus, right? So plus numbers and negative numbers can be there, right? So at the same time, I denote this by a minus 1 minus 2 up to minus t, right? So those are indexed, right? So to let you know that they are on the fractional part and integer part is this, right? So here t is fixed, n can be any number, or integers, right? So n can be any number, right? So it doesn't matter whether you will have fixed or not, right? But n can be any number, but number of digits in the fractional part is fixed, right? So if I say 2-digit fractional part, then you know I can only have certain number of digits, right? So for example, right? Say for example, 111.001 is a fixed point number with base 2 and number of digits in the fractional part being 3, right? So similarly, 12.75 is a fixed point number with base 10 and digit 2, right? So clearly you know that this is not true, right? So 11.01 base 2 cannot be a member of fi of 2 comma 3, right? So this cannot be a member of 2 comma 3 because this has only 2 digits, right? So you cannot include him or that number into the set of fixed point numbers. So you have to be careful about this representation of fixed point numbers. So the first thing is, right, the first results associated with these fixed point numbers is, right, so I will write this as an exercise. Right, so if x is a fixed point number, right, then x can be written as an integer times b to the power minus t, right? So that should be an integer in b. Okay, so I have to be more specify here. Right, so if you want to be more specific, you can say it is an integer in base b. Right, so we can show this because you already know the representation, right? So x is basically this, plus or minus, right, an b to the power n, right, plus all the way up to a1 b plus a naught b to the power naught, right? And then you continue. So a minus 1 b to the power minus 1 plus all the way up to a to the power minus t b to the power minus t. Right, so this is the case. Right, so when you write down x as a polynomial representation, this is how you write the polynomial representation. So now according to the question, you have to factor out a b to the power minus t from this, right? So if you want to factor out a b to the power minus t from this, then you can do that. When you do that, you will have a plus or minus a to the a n b to the power n, and you factor out a b to the power minus t, so you will have b to the power n plus t, and so all the way up to a1 b to the power t plus 1 plus a naught b to the power t plus a minus 1 b to the power t minus 1 plus all the way up to a minus t b to the power naught, and then you factor out a b to the power minus t from everything, right? So clearly you can see that this is a polynomial with power b to the power n plus t, right? So this is basically an integer representation, right? So this part, now you see that you have no negative powers, right? As long as t is a positive number, right, you can see that this representation has no negative powers of b in it, right? So that means clearly this is an integer. So you can say, including plus or minus, you can say that as an integer b to the power minus t. So this is the representation of this, right, x to the power t. So right, so this means because you can write an x which is a fixed point number as an integer times b to the power minus t, right, you can see that every number in that set will have a representation x, so n times b to the power minus t. So you can easily show that, right? So if the distance between two successive points in the set fi bt is given by b to the power minus t, because if you take two successive numbers in fi of bt, right, then each of them will have a representation integer times b to the power minus t. But because these numbers are successive to each other, the integers should also be successive to each other. And you all know that the difference between two successive integers is always 1. So absolute value of x1 minus x2 is actually 1 times b to the power minus t. So you will have b to the power minus t spacing here, right? So that is the idea behind this fixed point representation, right? So you can see that you will have a uniform representation, uniform spacing of b to the power minus t. So that is why in the earliest example I show you that when you have two decimal digits in the fractional part, then that cannot be set a member in the fixed point with 3-digit decimal points, right? So you cannot have numbers in between, right? So you know that. So if you have x1, you will have x2, x3, x4, and continue like this, and you will never have numbers in between, right? So if you draw fi of b comma t as a number line in the number line, right? So you can see that you will never have numbers in between, right? One number space another number space another number, and like that, right? So this spacing is basically b to the power minus t, and this spacing is again b to the power minus t, right? So that is how you will have uniform spacing in b to the power in the fixed point numbers, right? So that is the fixed point number representation, right? Now the other number representation, floating point number representation. So what is the difference? We have to see what is the difference between the floating point number representation and fixed point number representation, right? So floating point number representation is more like a scientific representation or scientific notation which you have learned in your O-level math, right? So you have learned the scientific representation or notation of a number in O-level. So here again we are going to do the similar type of thing in the floating point numbers. Right, so floating point numbers. So here right? So when you talk about floating point numbers, right, that also you will be, right? So when you talk about floating point numbers, right, you will have a base b, right, and number of digits in the fraction t, like what you have in fixed point, right? So you will have the same thing for floating point as well. But what is the difference? The difference is this, right? This floating point number will always written in a form, right? Fraction times exponent, right? Exponent of a base, right? So you cannot have integers in the numbers, right? This you have learned this, right? So say for example 3125 2.575. So if you have a number like this, right, so you know that you can convert this into 0.312575 into 10 to the power 3, right? So you know this transformation. Or if you have 0.006145, you know that you can write it as 615 times 10 to the power minus 2, right? So these kind of representation you have learned in O level as scientific representation or scientific notation of numbers, right? So similarly, you can see that a similar type of approach is given here, right, in the floating point numbers. But the important part is the number of digits in the fraction is limited, right? So here the number of digits in the fraction is not limited, right? So this, right, so it's not floating point numbers, this is scientific representation. Right, so first part, this example is scientific notation, not floating point representation. In floating point representation, what happened is this fractional part is limited to certain number of digits, right? So that is the big difference between scientific notation and floating point representation. So if I have a floating point representation, right, then what I have is, okay, first I have to write down what I mean by FLF. Yes. Okay. So if you have a floating point number, right, then you can write that as a fraction times exponent of the base, right? So b to the power e. Right? And then that fraction is always a strict fraction with the first digit being non-zero, right? So if it is zero, then you know you can transfer it again into fraction with non-zero first digit, right? So this is the representation, right? So of floating point numbers, right? So that is how we are going to see the floating point numbers, right? So similarly, uh, like what we did in fixed point integers, here also we can see the uniform spacing of floating point numbers. I will write this as an exercise. So if right, so if x is equal to f b to the power e being a floating point number, right? So then we can see that x is equal to n times b to the power e, right? So this is same because you know x is equal to plus or minus, right? So 0 point a1 a2, so a to the power minus 1 b to the power minus 1, right? Plus so all the way up to a to the power minus t b to the power minus t, right, times b to the power e, right? So this is the representation, polynomial representation of this number, right? So this is basically, you know, plus or minus a to the power minus 1 b to the power t minus 1 plus all the way up to a to the power minus t b to the power naught b to the power e minus t. When you factor out b to the power minus t from all of them, you get x equal to plus or minus a minus 1 b to the power minus t all the way up to a minus t b to the power naught times b to the power e minus t. So now you see that this is a polynomial in b with no negative degrees of b or no negative power of b. So that is clearly an integer. So this means this is n b to the power e minus t, right? So we can say that because of this, right? Because of this relationship, we can say that the floating point numbers FLBT has a uniform spacing b to the power e minus t. So this is about two types of number representations, right? Fixed point number and floating point number. So now you can see that in both of them, we see that we have a limit in the number of digits in the fraction. So because of that, you cannot represent any number into a computer as it is. You may have to cut down the number of digits in the fractional part. So in the next class, we are going to see how we can do that cutting down and what are the consequences of that, right? So that we will talk about in the next class. Right? So I'll stop here and then we'll continue on the other class.